Monday. I'm bleary-eyed and drowsy and in need of a very cold beverage since I can't have too much caffeine, so I need coldness to wake me up. Despite being tired, I'm going to do a free write today. I've been really enjoying working with a shorter piece, whether that's just simply a scene or a chapter, usually a scene. Free writing it and then doing a first pass through of editing, second pass through of editing, and third pass through of editing. And I did that with the last thing that I wrote, which felt really good. To be honest, I've been getting all my writing tips from masterclass trailers, not the actual like masterclass writing class itself, but just simply trailers. These world-renowned writers will say something brilliant along the lines of, you need to keep your confidence up as a writer, it's extremely important, or I like writing for 3 hours in the morning as soon as I get up and editing with that. So that's where the idea came from, to work with a shorter piece and edit through with that to make about 1,000 words, and also to keep your confidence up. Confidence is super necessary when it comes to writing. I feel like as if I'm not continually bombarded with my first word vomit, which is really nice. The fact that I'm able to grow it and bloom it, and sure, it's not going to be my final draft, but I can see the progression and see like, oh, that's the direction I was going in. This is going to be good for this time around. The segment that I'll be working with right now comes a little bit before the really sad scene that I wrote last time, kind of bring it up to speed. It's interesting. I think I'll be using the free writes that I was doing in Free Write Frenzy this last year. If you haven't seen it already, I have it in my Instagram, but basically that was just my opportunity to write shorter form things 20 days in November. This goes to show you that even though in the moment you're not necessarily sure where some of those things are going to be placed, they could actually be contributing to a larger piece of work. Excited about that today. I can see the pieces connecting slowly but surely. I'm so tired. It's late. I didn't record this because honestly it's so weird. Today started off, I was struggling, honestly. I was kind of down in the dumps because I was only able to get 400 words out today, and they were really nicely polished and I liked them, but to me the 400 words, I was like just disappointed with it because it's not 1,000 or it's not 5,000, even though I actually enjoyed the work more and thought maybe I didn't have to edit it so much in the future. Just because I missed that number mark, it felt like I don't know, that I was just letting myself down. Instead of getting caught up in that and everything, and being frustrated that my brain wasn't able to push past that point, wasn't able to push past that creative point of producing more creative work, I decided to work on my outline and just do something productive, have a change of pace. The thing is I finished my outline. I have the roadmap of what my book is going to look like. I just knocked it out within a couple of hours, just put on some music and just knocked it all out. Obviously I'm in my PJs, so I got all comfy and everything, and I didn't record it because I was just so in the zone, but I can't believe that I know what my book is gonna look like now. And there's still some stuff I have to fine tune, of course. Just having a general roadmap planned is so helpful. It's strange, I thought that I was gonna be late on my deadline for when I would get my outline done, but the original date was January 20th, and today's January 20th, and maybe there's some stuff I have to fix tomorrow in the next couple of days, but pretty damn close. I just think I need to take that in, you know, taking in the milestones and like not letting the small disappointments along the way like really get to me, but you know, taking in the fact that now we're on to the next part, making plans for a second draft. Hello everyone. Right now I'm actually creating my timeline. So for me, the difference between an outline and a timeline is that an outline is the events that are happening in your story, like character A met up with character B and they talked about this. Timeline is the actual you guessed it, time that people are meeting up. So if that same scene happened, is this happening in April? Is this happening on a Sunday? The reason why I like doing a timeline and it's kind of necessary is because previous professors have called me out on my shit and have been like, you've said that these flowers bloom at this time, but you've obviously made like several references to summer, so there's kind of a loophole in that. And I'm like, crap, you're absolutely right, because obviously it can't be summer year-round, and my events that are happening months apart are not within that same season. It also is very good for holidays or birthdays to know, even things that aren't going to necessarily show up explicitly in the book. It's really good to add in detail, and it's good to anchor yourself in as a writer to the outside world. Additionally, it's really good so that it kind of makes sense for how long it takes a character to develop. So for example, like any story, my characters are going through a personal development journey. Of course, that doesn't happen within the span of an entire month. It takes months and maybe even years for a character to fully realize and implement new lessons into their life. It helps me be like, okay, I can spread out these scenes a little bit more. It doesn't have to happen right after another. Overall, that's why I do a timeline, is so people don't call me out on my shit. And because I want to add in more details, and I just want to anchor the reader into the realness of my book, the reality of it. That is what we're gonna do today. I'm also doing some research in terms of weather patterns on the town that my book is based off of. That'll give me a better idea of when things should move or not. Hello, happy Sunday. Mostly planning right now. I'm going through my old manuscript and kind of working with the new outline that I've made for myself, and just taking out all of the scenes that aren't working or were part of the old plot outline. I mean, it's incredible just looking through this. The thing is that it's strange. A lot of writers have a really hard part taking out old parts of their novel that aren't working. I myself have realized that my current novel, and even the final draft of what my novel will be, is going to be shorter than the amount of words that I have done that I have to throw away, or at least save for later. So my current manuscript of things that I'm keeping is 91,000 words. And just from the parts that I'm taking out there, I know I'm not going to do anything with them. They're not going to show up in any form of my novel. That itself is just 96,000 words. All of that down the drain. But it's not down the drain. That's the thing. Like, it's so important to be able to write everything that you need to for your first draft. And secondly, it's also really important to be able to let go when you're like, this isn't working, this is a weird scene, this is slowing down pacing. I think my book is going to be better for it. Okay, I feel good. I worked on chapter 1 and it took me a very, very long time. This is what I'm talking about. Why things take me so long to do, but I feel good from it. I only was able to rewrite, okay, I'm gonna be honest, it took me 2 hours to write 226 words. But that's okay, you know, like I was definitely overhauling. It seems like such a small amount, but I'm very proud of that. And it's incredible being able to be like, oh, this is my writing from 2 years ago, and I thought that this was my best. And then I rewrite it and I'm like, wait a second, I've improved, you know, there's rhythm that I found, there's my voice that I found, and I can see the flow a little bit better. So that's why this feels so good, even though it's just 226 words. I'm still working on it, obviously. I thought I would read a little bit. New Highlands no longer belong to its residents. It is the same softly played tragedy that falls on all coastal towns at one point or another. See, when a town's residents lose their handholds on its alleyway bookshop and its side street diner, the spirit of the town belongs to those newly arrived. In New Highlands, these same tourists who found its central pub quaint and old-timey instead of run down to its bones. These same tourists who delighted in the town's cobblestone sidewalks, leaving TripAdvisor reviews on how it added to the small town charm. Little did they know that they were stepping, quite literally, onto a tense legal battle between the city's government and sign-carrying local elderlies who demanded walkways that weren't tripping hazards. All this to say that while New Highland saw visitors of all kinds, they had pilgrimaged for the same reason, to be healed by the sea. Tourists, after having spent the week at the coastal town, would drive away with a feeling of restoration in their limbs. Visitors who stayed much longer, for weeks, months, in some cases even years, became something new entirely. It was New Highland's quiet power that called them from miles away. It was an energy that gathered at the town's highest point, at a hostel that overlooked the sea, poised within hanging nail distance of a cliff. Okay, there's some work. I definitely saw some typos as I was reading out loud, but yeah, I think there's more movement in this, and an opening chapter is really hard because you have to explain the location, introduce the characters, the entire ensemble, and also the stakes that are involved. 200 words isn't bad. Hello everybody, I'm going to say this very quickly before my memory runs out on my camera card, but we're in the very exciting part of writing. I'm working on chapter 1 and it's been going really well. Introductory chapters can be very, very difficult because you're trying to introduce everything all at once while still not like adding unnecessary parts of the book that'll make it bloated and kind of weigh down the pacing of everything. I realized that I needed to add in a scene because my book takes place in a hostel, which is, if you've ever stayed at a hostel before, then you know that there are some very particular things at hostels that just don't happen anywhere else. For the most part, people are nice, people are open, but I just wasn't fully showing that part of the hostel, especially since the main cast of my characters are people that already work at the hostel. They're very familiar with it, they know everybody there, they're kind of like everybody's friend. But I realized that I didn't have a scene with Quentin, my main character, interacting with the other people at the hostel that are kind of like him, that are there for the first time trying to navigate it. So that was an aspect of the hostel culture that I wanted to show, is just like in general how odd it is to meet somebody at a hostel and most people are like, hi, my name is this and I'm from Poland and I do this. That was just my experience. I'm sure that there's other experiences. In general, that's what I feel like hostels are. So I wanted to show that. Plugging along. I just wrote 1,000 words just about, and that currently puts me at a total of 89,790 words. So we're plugging along. So for chapter 1, think of it like this. I am having kind of 2 points of view or 2 lenses to look through. One is Quentin. He's never been there before, so you're seeing it through the lens of, this is strange, I'm walking into this world. So it's kind of like I'm inviting the reader to also see through that lens of like, okay, what are the rules of the hostel? How do people interact? Versus Beatrice, who knows the hostel very well. She's a worker there, and so she can navigate it very easily and knows how things are laid out. So I'm getting both sides of the coin. Things that Quentin doesn't know in general about the hostel, how many beds there are, how many residents stay there normally. That's all like basically shown through Beatrice's point of view, who's been there for quite some time. That might be a good technique, hopefully. And it's really important in the introductory chapter, and especially the kind of book that I'm building, is to kind of give the foundation of the world itself. The book has elements of realism and also magical realism, and so I want to give all the rules of my world from the beginning, or at least hint at it. It should be there, but I don't have to explain everything just yet. It's a really hard balance to strike, but that's kind of what you gotta do. Hi everybody. So now that we're officially out of the stage of outlining and we've officially moved into the stage of writing, I think I'll consider this like stage 2 of the whole writing the book. Although it is technically difficult to outline and like not necessarily be in my element of writing, the writing aspect is actually where more of the complications happen, and I really have to hone in on basically every single detail. The one thing that I keep reminding myself in each scene is that there should be a little bit of tension. Not necessarily conflict. Conflict's always good. Two people shouldn't always agree when they're talking. There should always be something in the way of a character's goal in one way or another. That's the thing that I keep reminding myself and I have to keep implementing, because conflict and tension is what's going to make a story interesting for the most part. It could definitely written chapters before where they make sense and they're needed for the chapter, but they're not interesting. If a chapter is not interesting to me, the writer, then how is a reader gonna feel about this? I've been writing for a couple of hours, and it's about that time for me to wrap up, so I'm gonna end the vlog right there. I hope you guys learned something a little bit from this, learned a little bit from my faults, a little bit from my triumphs, and that you were able to take away something from this and put it into your own writing. So with that being said, good night everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.